Sailors After Dark. Romance with character.
The English electronic pop outfit Pet Shop Boys is one of the most consistently successful pop duos in the history of music, particularly in Europe, where since their first chart topper, West End Girls, back in 1986, they've had over 40 top 40 hits. The main reason for their long successful career is because of their ability to create melodic pop dance music with intelligent lyrics and striking style.
I could leave you, say goodbye, or I could love you if I tried, and I could, and left to my own devices, I probably would. Come on, baby, left to my own devices, I probably would.
Check, 1, 2.
You know, I don't look like a rock star, I don't sing like a rock star.
That's where a lot of these songs came from.
It's not encouraged to grow up.
Well, you know something about it.
I've never heard anything like this. Really?
And I'll give you a countdown of 5, 4.
Every creative expression is a snapshot of a moment.
We could start at just something very simple in terms of the titles of anything the Pet Shop Boys have done in the past. Fundamental, album number 9. What does the title Fundamental mean to you, boys?
Well, we had the title before we started making the album. And as you may know, we always have one-word titles.
Yeah.
It seemed like a word that is around at the moment because of fundamentalism, and it seemed quite nice to take this rather threatening word, fundamentalism, and as fundamental, put it in a trivial context as the title of a pop album. And on the cover, it's in neon as well. So it makes it look a bit show business. And also, having made the album, we thought It Still was the right title because the album is a very fundamentally Pet Shop Boys sounding record. It's almost like the essence of Pet Shop Boys. And also it's got the word fun and mental in it. So
fun and mental, okay. When you say the fundamental sound of the Pet Shop Boys, what are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about, we worked with Trevor Horn on this album.
As you did 20 years ago as well.
As we did. We only did 2 tracks and then this time we made a whole album with them.
Right.
In my mind and in my car, we can't rewind, we've gone too far. Pictures came, broke your heart.
And it's a big sounding record. And I think when people think of the Pet Shop Boys, they don't really think of West End Girls, which was the record that got us going. They think of It's a Sin, and Always My Mind. Those kind of big records.
Everything I've ever done, everything I ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin. At school they taught me how to be, so pure in thought and word and deed. They didn't quite succeed.
When we started writing the songs for this, we actually wrote a little manifesto that we were going to write songs that were about the world today, about authoritarianism, about fundamentalism, and various other things. And we were going to write minimal electro-pop. And actually, when we started writing them, they were all these big epic things. So we decided to work with Trevor. And it's, you know, it sort of sounded like us. A lot of people complained our last album didn't sound like us. And this one, I think, it's got that epic thing that is something that we've done in the past.
Okay, but what about the idea of style and substance and wit and the other things that I talk about when I think about Pet Shop Boys? I mean, are they important to you before you sit down to write? Are they important to you before you sit down to record? Like, where is the substance? Where is the style? Where is the wit? Where is the Pet Shop Boys thing that you mentioned earlier?
Well, they're always in the ideas, even before the song is written. There might be...
And the pop hooks and the really detailed chord structures, all that kind of thing.
Well, we think we always have that.
Yeah, right. That's even
what we do is we experiment with the sounds. The last album, you know, had Johnny Marr play guitar on it a lot. The previous album had a lot of orchestras. The one before that, we mixed Latin rhythms with electronic rhythms. But this one is like an epic film. There are more sort of witty songs in this, I think, than the last couple of albums. There's a song called I'm a Stupid. The title comes from the I'm a Stupid t-shirt you used to see around.
Yeah.
And it takes the story of Bush and Blair, Blair being the clever one, making the alliance with Bush, the stupid one.
See you on the TV, call you every day. Fly across the ocean just to let you get your way. No one understands me, where I'm coming from. Why would I be with someone who's obviously so dumb? Love comes, love grows.
But then the song turns around in the middle where the person singing, which is from Tony Blair's point of view, is thinking, is stupid really stupid or a different kind of smart?
Yeah.
Which I think is often true in American politics, that being genial and stupid is actually masks the real purpose.
Stupid really is stupid, or a different kind of smart.
When you say witty earlier on, do you think that people still see Pet Shop Boys, people who aren't total fans of Pet Shop Boys, as just, oh yeah, they're that ironic duo? Does that word ironic, when is it going to start annoying you?
Well, it's annoyed us for a long time, because on this album, there is one ironic song. Something I think that people who like the Pet Shop Boys like, but is otherwise unreported, is the romanticism. There's a big strain of romanticism flows through all of the Pet Shop Boys albums right from the word go, from the first album. But they're very rarely singles, those songs. I think we just never have the nerve to release a ballad as a single, or EMI never wants us to.
Okay, but like when I'm like, just to stick on that point for 1 second, like extremely satirical, some people would say, or maybe even like cynically ironic. Is the authenticity missed about what you guys are if we concentrate on those kind of things solely, or concentrate on those kind of things a lot? Because I never read an article about the Pet Shop Boys where it doesn't mention those kind of things at some stage.
No, I mean, I've seen reviews of us where it's literally been talking about a love song. It says typically ironic. I think there's something in my voice that distances, that has a distancing quality, that doesn't throw itself into emotion, that seems to stand back a bit. Well, that's what my voice sounds like.
But those in the know, no.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it makes it sound more romantic because you've got this sort of small, high voice against this big background, and there's a massive musical contrast there, which to me is sort of quite moving in a way, or can be quite moving in a way.
Fire is falling at a desperate pace. The earth is dying, and deaths are taking its place. People under pressure on the brink of starvation. I hope it's gonna be alright.
I don't know that I'm really bothered, though, what people think. I think people can take what they want from what you do. What we don't do, we don't present ourselves. We don't signpost what we do with the style of how you present it. Normally, if you're doing something very serious, you present it in the style of seriousness, or romanticism is presented with on top of the post with 6 female string players and flames. We don't do that. We've never had, because to us it's too corny. And I think you can take from it what you want to take from it.
Okay, but the other stuff you were talking about earlier on, and some of the things you wanted to say, for instance, about Bush and Blair, whatever, you studied history. Is it too much of a stretch to say, oh yeah, that's social commentary? That's where it's coming from.
No, there's always been a weird historical strain in our songs in terms of the lyrics, because I did study history. So I've always been very, very interested in Russian history, and we actually, Chris has even complained before, not another song about Russian history. Actually, I think there's been war and a half.
And the pace back east, rustling just to feet, ready to lead to. We are gonna do. Life is peaceful there, in the overhead, where the skies are blue. This is what we're gonna do.
If you don't approach music intellectually, you approach music maybe instinctively. Is that a better thing?
Chris.
Well, I don't approach it intellectually. I don't approach many things intellectually, so no, instinct's far better, isn't it? Because it's genuine, from the heart stuff.
Right, but if I said that about pop music, we'd say, okay, fine. If I said that about rock music, maybe it's possible to have a bit more of both, or is it?
Is rock music either? Or is it just... No, I'm not going to go down that path.
Oh, come on. I love that. I think we've done it for ages, to slagging off rock music.
Is it not just
a
string of cliches?
A series of tired old gestures dragged out yet again.
I can hear it on a timeless wavering, never dissipating, but giving us strength. I think it's gonna be alright.
You know, there would be people who would have thought maybe around the early, this part of the century, around 2002 direction, I would have thought that you were kind of moved maybe a little bit more rock than you ever had before. And in doing so, a lot of people would say, but wait a minute, that's all wrong. Do you ever get to the point where, like, it's not just Chris and it's not just Neil, that you realise you've created this monster that actually you don't own anymore, that they own it and they expect things from you? And it's like, hold on a second, but we are Pet Shop Boys. And it's almost like big fans say, no, I'll tell you what Pet Shop Boys are.
We get problems when we use guitars. In fact, in America particularly, we are part of electronica, and electronica is about not liking guitars. And in the 80s, we used to mouth up all the time saying we hate guitars, even though they were on our records. But they weren't the focus of them. And so on the last album released where Johnny Marr played guitar on, I think, almost every track, a lot of our fans were kind of shocked because one of the tenets of the Pet Shop Boys is we hate guitars. And suddenly there they were. But I think it's a process of evolving that you do something that you're not meant to do.
The lyrics, when you write stuff, Pet Shop Boys wise, and you want to get across something that's the same all the way, or maybe getting some idea of who you are. If it's autobiographical in a lot of places, you include the good and the bad. Is that very important to you to do that, and rather than, like you say, a lot of pop isn't necessarily great. One of the things about you guys is, what's Neil saying this time around?
Well, the idea of the Pet Shop Boys was always to put real life against a powerful musical background. And that was true 20 years ago, and it's probably even truer, actually, now. That's what we try to do. So you get very personal things that can come from me, or from Chris's life, or from friends around us, or from things we've read, or from politics. And it all goes in there.
Let's take a ride on with the dogs tonight in suburbia. You can't hide, run with the dogs tonight in suburbia.
And often what I try to do is present the political as personal.
Yeah.
So you take a political relationship, present it as a personal relationship. But it's all, as far as I'm concerned, it's all true. It's not really made up. The source material is from the real world.
And are you okay with the stuff he writes? I mean, lyric-wise.
Never listened to it.
Right,
No, it's very good. A+.
A+. One of the things you did some time back was Wallapalooza, which is the Lollapalooza other side of it, or the Lilith Fair. If they can have Lilith Fair, if your Smashing Pumpkins and all that can have Lollapalooza, then you guys wanted to have What a Palaver. What a Palaver, yeah.
Never happened there.
It never did happen, did it, with all these bands you were going to... What were you trying to do with that? What was it meant to be?
We just had this idea that you could do a travelling festival of gay musicians and call it What a Palaver. And it would be a really good festival, and it would link in with gay people around America and what have you. But also, our idea, it's a very us idea, it would show that actually there isn't such a thing as gay music, because you'd have had the Pet Shop Boys, and you'd have had Rufus Wainwright, and you've had the Magnetic Fields, and we were going to have, for a very brief period, Sinead O'Connor as the co-headliner.
Pulled out at the beginning, yeah.
And she stopped being a lesbian, so she couldn't do it anymore. I've always wanted to fight against the stereotype that gay kind of means something. And you always read in, broadly speaking, the heterosexual media about gay culture, gay icons and all the rest of it. Well, gay people themselves don't really ultimately talk about their lives like
Does
that.
a phrase like even gay community freak you out? Hold on a second.
Well, actually, I don't like all this talk of, I don't like this talk of when you get, religious communities, Muslim community leaders say, who's elected them? Who's elected gay community leaders? Am I a gay community leader? I haven't been elected, and I would like to think that we all live in one community, because otherwise I think it all gets a bit divide and rule.
Heterosexual people are not usually defined by their sexuality. Gay people are. Does that annoy you?
It really annoys me, because I can't see any reason to find gay people by their sexuality. I think there is over many years I've thought about this. I've realised with having friends who are heterosexual that people who don't have children have the same kind of lives as people, as each other, whether they're heterosexual or homosexual, because they don't have those responsibilities and those ties to home, so they're going to have the same kind of life. I think that, as you get older, you realise is a defining thing, whether someone's got children or not. Because I think when people have children, not always, but often their life completely changes. And I think when people say the word gay, maybe less so than they used to, but there's a whole load of cultural assumptions come with that, which I find pretty irritating, really, and sometimes patronising.
Pick up a brochure about the sun. Learn to ignore what the photographer saw. I was always told that you should join a club. Stick with the gang if you want to belong. I was a lonely boy, no strength, no joy, in a world of my own. At the back of the gun, I didn't want to compete or play out on the street. For in a secret life, I was a round-tailed general.
So do you think if you release people from defining themselves sexually, that it's amazing the kind of whole community we might actually have out there? There's a whole other way of living, a whole way of finding out about everything we do, if it wasn't so ghettoised.
Well, we didn't used to, and the reason the idea of gay comes out of political oppression, where gays were attacked by the police and queer bashers, which they still do get, and all the rest of it. But in Britain now we have equality before the law. In terms of the age of consent, astonishingly, was brought down to 16, and we had the partnership agreement. And I think with that, you see the idea of a gay community becoming less important.
OK, you have the song, which is The Night I Fell in Love, which is a song obviously a lot of people will talk to you about because of the fact that it's a gay guy who has a relationship overnight with probably, and I'll say Eminem, you don't have to.
No, we say Eminem now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
you say Eminem.
We don't mind
OK, the homophobia in a lot of rap music, Eminem gets out of it by saying, well, that's actually Slim Shady, or that's some other character, or that's Marshall Mathers, or it's not me, or whatever. Do you believe him?
Yeah, I sort of do. I think Eminem... That's why we did the song, because Eminem's kind of method, his approach, is to present himself... Actually, Eminem is really ironic, in fact. He presents himself, his characters represent the nasty side of America, sometimes. Therefore, the homophobia is part of it. So in that song, I'm just like Eminem, playing a character. It's not what I really think, but it's...
OK, would an historian looking back at Pet Shop Boys see a kind of an AIDS narrative? Should I see that listening to your albums of over 20 years? Maybe
yes,
not
but
lately.
Probably, I think a historian listening to our albums would see an enormous amount of what was going on at the time reflected in our songs. So in our album, actually, 1987, which had the song Shopping on it, which is about privatisation, which is something then had the song King's Cross. Which is about Thatcherism. It had the song Couldn't Happen Here,
right,
which was about AIDS,
yeah.
Which was about me singing about a friend telling me about AIDS in America and saying, but they're saying it's not going to happen here to the same degree. That guy got AIDS and died. And that was the first. And then there were the elegies to friends, you know, who died of AIDS, like being born.
But I thought, in spite of dreams, you'd be sitting somewhere here with me. 'Cause we were never being boring. We had too much time to find for ourselves, and we were never being boring. We dressed up in thoughts and thought to make amends.
Just in terms of when you guys met, people know that you met not far from here in a shop in
Chelsea,
in Chelsea, an electric shop in August 1981. But the thing is, before that, you had both been playing music. Now, when you think about the Pet Shop Boys, a lot of people might think, they did what? First of all, you were in a kind of an Incredible String Band kind of influence thing?
Yeah, that was in 1970, 71.
And you were in a 7-piece brass band or something? Is that right? Hold on. You played trombone band?
Yeah.
OK, and then, and this is the big one, you played in a rock band called Stallion?
Yeah, we didn't actually do anything. I mean, it was only a few little gigs and that. But it's quite good fun, that rocking out thing. I can understand why people do it.
Right. Well, then what is it about rocking out and the shows that people have, which is, OK, get your hands together and get your scarves out. Your shows aren't that kind of thing. Your shows are big theatrical productions, and the audience, you can take it or leave it. You can take it whatever you want. It's not let's all do this.
You know, they've changed a bit over the years, because when we were touring on the last album, we had 2 guitarists, and particularly when you're playing festivals. I think that rock energy when it's good. See, I've always slag off music. Yeah, I went to see Led Zeppelin in 1970 in Newcastle City Hall. You know, I think really exhilarating up rock music is just like exhilarating up dance music. It's great. And so we have had quite a lot of that energy in our shows. When we do the U2 cover, you know, A Suit of a Name, I've noticed it's increasingly got less ironic as time's gone on. And even the Can't Take My Eyes Off You bits just boosts the energy level.
Less ironic as it's gone on. Like it has an impact in its time, and now the time is gone.
Yeah, I have a tendency to think that song.
Were you trying to get a dig at the
works.
U2 pomposity of the Joshua Tree time?
Yes, that was obviously the idea behind it. And also, it was a fun idea to take a U2 song. It was, again, a very transgressive thing to do, a revered U2 song, and take da-da-da-da and say, hey, it's show business, everyone. Let's face facts, it's show business. Yeah. And then, of course, famous U2 started doing show business
Big
anyway. Musically, it really worked. It was a very clever arrangement, and we still do it live. I think in the summer we're still doing it because it really particularly works very well live. And of course, you've got to hand to U2. I mean, that's the background that they come from, so the background we came from.
Right. Yeah. Okay. By the way, like you met in this shop, you started to work together and make music. So you made demo tapes and all the rest of it, and then you went over to New York, and there was this kind of high energy producer you really wanted to meet. You met him. You gave him the demos. He helped you out a bit. These songs comes out West End Girls. It does okay, and I'm going to say obscure places for a second, but I don't mean to be sort of disrespectful to these places. It didn't exactly
to Belgium.
To Belgium, okay.
Well, France, actually.
The point, yeah, okay. The point about it is, it didn't exactly kind of light people's fire in the big music parts of the world, in Britain or in America, whatever. And it didn't do that well. The next single also didn't do particularly that brilliantly either. Yeah. And then it was a few years later, by 1986, that it finally did. Is that a good thing, do you think? Like, were you gasping for the success at that stage?
No, I don't know if I ever thought we'd have success. But what West End Girls did, its original version, in fact, it travelled all the way around the world. And so you could go to California, and K-Rock was playing the original version. Yeah. And the big college station on Long Island, WLIR was playing it on Long Island outside New York. And people were playing it in Australia and Europe. And so about when we released the second version, which became the hit, people were phoning up EMI and saying, this is such a great record, are you aware of that?
Sometimes you're better off dead. There's a gun in your hand that's pointing at your head. You think you're mad, too unstable, kicking in chairs and knocking down tables in a restaurant in a West End town. Call the police, there's a madman around, running down underground to a dive bar in a West End town. In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. West End girls.
The gap between the failure version and the hit version is actually 18 months.
Right, yeah, okay.
But it's interesting, because I don't think we ever really, in our heart of hearts, thought we would achieve mass success. I don't think that was...
Right.
What we expected.
You guys, as I say, like, you weren't friends who grew up together, but you became friends, you've been good friends now for over a quarter of a century. Has there been any sort of vibes where, like, wait a minute now, because everybody falls out, certainly bands fall out, as we all know. Like, has it been My Drink and Drugs hell, which I think it probably hasn't, as it hasn't been for a lot of people, by the way. No. It's not that much of a cliche.
It's not obligatory.
Or has it been like in the 91 tour, say, you go along and he gets a bigger suite than you do in the hotel? Any hissy fits?
Everyone does that.
Yeah, I think we've got over that now, though.
Actually, I like smaller rooms now.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because you guys could walk the streets better than most people. I mean, like, everything about you, live-wise, down to the font, the print on the cover of the albums, down to the names of the album being one word. There is a thing about Pet Shop Boys and that, and yet you can walk the streets, and it's not as though you're not visible. You are out there.
I know we are, but there's a thing about, right from the beginning, it was not a project about celebrity.
Right.
It was not about personal fame, and it was deliberately done like that. It was not about personal fame.
I'm looking for a partner, someone who gets things fixed. Ask yourself this question, do you want to be rich? I've got the brains, you've got the looks. Let's make lots of money. You've got the brawn, I've got the brain. Let's make lots of money.
We like the idea of the Pet Shop Boys as an entity being famous, but not Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant. And because one of the reasons we wanted to have, by that point I'd had a job, I'd worked for 10 years, I had my life, and I wanted to carry on. I didn't want to drive around and show different cars. I just wanted to nip into a taxi or even get the tube or something, you know. And that's always been important to us.
There's a lot of opportunities if you know when to take them, you know. There's a lot of opportunities. If there aren't, you can make them.
And also, I don't think we're those kind of star personalities. And there are definitely some people who are born with a I am meant to be famous kind of personality.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think either of us have.
Okay, then in terms of fame, which is worse? I know somebody you know very well is Madonna. And
you don't know very well.
Well, you do know her very well, actually. I'll tell you, you do. Because there's been like collaborations in some shape or form down through the years, and like not so long ago, getting the award, etc., from her. And it's anyway. Point is that like somebody like Madonna would come to London the first time round, well before she married Guy Ritchie and all that, and she'd go out jogging, and she'd make sure there's 40 guys jogging with her and all that. Now that's not really that she wants protection. That's to get on the front page of every single town, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
There's the other guy at the bus stop who used to be famous and is no longer famous anymore. People go, "That's your man." Whatever.
What's his face?
Which is kind of like the more pathetic, and I'm obviously going to say the second one to a point, but I'm just saying, like, are they both in the same pathetic bag in some ways? You can't slag Madonna. Why did I ask that?
No. I think what you've got is the current version of Madonna, who, when we were making her last album, she was in the same studio, and Madonna came to the studio every day on a bicycle.
Right. Oh, yeah, I know.
I think she had the car behind her, but I didn't think the car was that visible as such. It was just a car behind her. You know, Michael Jackson would never do that, would he? Because he would want to be recognised. I think a lot of people run their lives in a way they choose to be recognised.
Right.
And they don't feel fulfilled unless they are.
Right.
And I think for most people, if they want, they can live a normal life. David Bowie, I'm sure, walks around the streets of Manhattan or whatever.
You bumped into Paul McCartney in these streets of London just a few weeks ago, didn't you?
You did research, haven't you? Yeah, we bumped into Paul McCartney walking down Charlotte Street.
Does he stop and say, "Hey, Pet Shop Boys"?
No, he got out the car because he was going to walk, and we both pointed at each other, and we just walked down the road with him chatting to his office. And, you know, that's good because you should never lose touch. It sounds a bit of a cliche, but you should never lose touch with the world and with the street and what's happening. Otherwise, actually, if anything else, it's boring. Your life is just boring. I hate to go from, we're in a hotel now, to open a hotel straight into a car, go home, get changed, and go to something. You know, people are always surprised. Chris and I normally walk home after interviews, stuff like that, because you've been cooped up all day, and you just want to feel the energy from the street. It's a really important thing. And then you think people don't recognise you because they don't, but so often I get out of a taxi, the taxi driver says, "Oh, that's £9.50, Neil."
Right.
And he hasn't bent my ear all the way there, which I appreciate. So I think the level of fame is actually it's quite nice for me.